We all went in, and it was me and my cousin Chrissy and my cousin Cody. We went in and asked my mom if we could go down and get some Frosties before dinner. And she said, yeah. Me and Chrissy's walking, and that's when the Lincoln pulled up. Here we are, you know, I'm 15 years old, my cousin is 14, and we're here at a truck stop, you know, being forced to work it, you know, being forced to go from truck to truck, asking, you know, if the guy would like to have sex with us, you know, and we're young girls, terrified out of our minds.
I tell you, people don't realize what it's like out there in a truck stop.
A lot of the truck stops I go into, you see a lot of the girls, and a lot of them are very young.
One of the things that we saw in Oklahoma that disturbed us quite a bit was seeing a van pull up with a woman driving, and as she opened the doors, I think there were about 5 or 6 girls that got out. It looked like they ranged anywhere from 15, 16, maybe 18 years old, but all of them very, very young.
This one, she didn't even look 13, 14 years old. She had no shoes on. She had a little mini skirt on. But within 30 minutes, that girl had done been in 3, 4 trucks.
Well, you see it at different places. It seems like the west and the east is the worst. Of course, it does happen in the heartland too, and I realize that.
Because I was actually in a little town in Arkansas, and I can't remember the name of the town, little truck stop there, out in the middle of nowhere. And this young, very young girl come up to my truck. She couldn't have been more than 14, 15 years old. And I know good and well a 14-year-old, 15-year-old is not doing this on her own accord.
I remember looking into the eyes of some of these young girls and seeing a hollow look, a sadness. They were not willing participants in this at all.
When they leave trucks, they'll go to this one central person that may be at the end of the row. So, I mean, so you know there's some kind of team effort in putting them out there. You have to wonder who's behind them.
They have a pimp or whatever you want to call them, trafficker, slave driver, bottom line.
My son and I were driving through Oklahoma City, had the radio on, and the guy comes on the radio, hey, anybody want any underage girls? Well, what are you talking about? You know, oh yeah, these are 16 and 17 years old. Who wants to use them? Got one black, one white. They're very inexperienced. Anybody want them? I said, hey, what are you doing? Okay, what kind of drugs are you using? What kind of drugs are you giving these girls? Okay, how are you making these girls do this thing? How can you look at yourself in the mirror?
And the problem just doesn't extend to women. There's young boys being done the same way on the East Coast and the West Coast. And it's not just any one race. It has no barriers on who they take. I've been in Jessup, Maryland. There's a huge truck stop there. Girls have ended up dead and thrown up underneath trailers, beaten and raped.
It's just a tragic thing for these young girls.
That truck driver paid for sexual acts with me. It was just an awful experience. How many truck drivers, you know, was okay with it, you know, not thinking that, you know, this is somebody's daughter, you know, this is somebody's family member, you know, that it is missed, you know, you don't think of that, you know, that they don't want to be here.
It makes me feel very uncomfortable because you know what, that could be my daughter.
Well, I have 2 daughters. I have 8 grandchildren, 1 great-grandbaby. To realize that this is going on in America is disturbing. That's, for a lack of a better word, it just disturbs me. It hurt me. It hurt my wife to know that this is going on. It could be somebody in our family. It could have been. And we just thank God that it's not. that it wasn't in this particular case, but this needs to be stopped, and these young girls ought to have an opportunity to have a life. Their life is being robbed, taken away from them at such an early age.
My name is Mark Brown. I've been in the transportation industry since 1971. I drove for 31 years. Well, this one particular incident, we pulled into Bakersfield, California, pulled into the truck stop. I was doing some paperwork and just happened to notice this young lady going from truck to truck to truck. And then finally I heard somebody knock on the door. So I put the windows down and looked down there and seen her, so I got out, shut the door. And she said, you want a date, buddy? And I said, no. I said, I've got one question for you. She said, what's that? I said, why are you doing this? Because I was concerned. She probably looked in her 14, 15 years old. I really couldn't tell of her age, but she was very young. She said, just look around the corner of the truck down there, and you'll see that Cadillac down there. That's why I did it. And when I looked down there, I didn't see anybody in the vehicle, but I knew what was going on. And when she walked away, I got back in the truck and I sat there and thought, why don't I just go walk across the parking lot and call the police? Well, I didn't do it. And for 30-some years, that has really bothered me to the point that I feel that if people was aware, would just get involved, it doesn't take that much. It's nothing but a simple phone call.
When most people think of the problem of child prostitution and sexual exploitation of children, they think of it as being a problem for foreign countries, for third world nations, and doesn't exist here in the U.S., and that's just not true.
I think the first thing that people think about when they think about trafficking is they think about people being put in a van or put in an airplane and brought to another country and stuffed in a room. I think what we really need to think about is the fact that human trafficking is a local crime as well. It is a crime that is happening to your neighbor's child. It is a crime that is happening in your city. It is a crime that could happen to your child.
The youngest child that we've recovered has been 9. Average age is 13 to 14, possible 15 years old that they get involved with prostitution. The life expectancy of a child involved in prostitution is 7 to 9 years, that they'll either be dead or involved in drugs and on their way to dying. If you have adult prostitution going on in your area, you have child prostitution going on in your area. And it happens in a number of different venues and areas, from casinos to your traditional street prostitution to the internet now, as well as truck stops and other venues. Is half an hour worth of your own personal pleasure worth taking away the childhood and the life of a kid, of a person, and making them feel as they have no self-worth for 20 minutes of self-gratification to steal someone's life away? And that's what people have to understand about what this problem is.
Traffickers literally can be anybody that has chosen to exploit a child by force, by fraud, by coercion, by in any way, and selling them. Nobody wakes up and says, gosh, I'd really like to sell myself on the streets today. That is something that is being directed by the victimizer, by the trafficker. And these kids find themselves in a situation they literally cannot get out of. This is old-fashioned greed. And where you can only sell a drug one time, you can sell a girl or a boy or a man or a woman over and over and over again.
Your pimps that do exploit these children and get these children involved can come from any background. Your pimps are your individuals that will look for vulnerable kids. What the pimp culture and psychology tries to do is they try and take the place of the father figure or the family figure. They refer to their victims as being their family or their folks. And that's what they call one another when they're with their victims. Now, when a pimp talks to another pimp, he refers to them as their stable. And that's how they really are looked at. They're looked at as livestock. They are to be sold and traded. Girls never get any of the money. That's, a big myth is that they're allowed to share some of the money. They never are. All the money goes to the pimps. The victims are rewarded with beatings and rapes. It's a brainwashing that begins in a dependency that the pimps try to put on the girls so that they cannot live without them, and that this is all that they can amount to and do.
We ended up going to his house, and that's when it pretty much hit us like a ton of bricks, because he wasn't nonchalant about it or anything. He just shut the door, locked it, and said that we're not leaving. And he sent Chrissy upstairs with one of the girls and me downstairs from the basement. I was freaking out because I didn't know what was happening to Chrissy. They separated us right then and there, and pretty much what the girl that I went downstairs told me, is that I was going to do what Derek told me to do, which they call daddy. We would have to have sex with men for money, and we have no say about it. And I started freaking out. I was crying, and I kept saying, let me talk to Chrissy. Where is she? I don't know. It was like, it felt like a dream, like a big blur, like this isn't real, like I just kept telling myself that I was going to wake up, just pinch myself and I'll be okay. Then I got to see her. She was totally in tears. She was freaking out. I guess they had said the same thing to her. And that night when we went to go to sleep, all I did was just hug her, and said it's going to be okay. I tried to act real strong. I didn't really cry too much during the whole experience because, she was younger than me and she was my best friend, and I didn't want nothing to happen to her, and they already said from the beginning that if I did anything stupid, then she would be the one that would pay for it.
When the girls don't want to work, they're beaten. In extreme cases, we've seen them drugged, addicted to heroin and things of that nature.
From the beginning, I wanted to get out, but there's bars on the windows, the alarms on every window, every door, everything. They never really left our sides at all. One day I did try, and we made a run for it, but he was up. I guess he wasn't sleeping. I don't know if he was just mind games or what he was doing, but he grabbed us. He threw me into the dining room table. It was glass, and busted me up pretty good. But Chrissy, he dragged up the stairs by her hair, like all the way by her hair, and threw her down the stairs, and did it again like 3 more times, busted her lip up, got her bruised, black eye a little bit right here. And it was really horrible to hear her screaming for me, and the 2 girls were holding me back and, telling me that, I have to watch this, that this is what happens if I try to do that, that I made it happen, that it was my fault, I should have never, tried to leave. And just seeing her flying down the stairs, it was pretty bad. They had us practice stripping in the garage. They had a stripper pole and mirrors, and Chrissy didn't want to do it, They had her in these pumps and this outfit, that didn't cover anything, and she didn't want to do it. And they made her do it, and they kept saying, you're going to do it, and they slammed her up against the mirror and slammed her face into it and stuff, and they said, fine, you don't want to do it, and they would come over and they would just slap me, and until Chrissy agreed to do it. That's what they did. They just played us off each other, and it worked.
I'm hard pressed when I hear people say that, well, some do it willingly and want to do it willingly. I don't think anyone would really want to be beaten and raped on a daily basis and beaten in the most extreme ways. Violence goes hand in hand with these type of cases, and it's used to break down the girls. It's used to discipline the girls. It's used to gain complete control over them. So I don't think there's any real willingness of your victims, especially your child victims.
You know, at the truck stop, we were not together. She was God knows where, you know, and I was over here. I didn't, you know, one phone call saying, hey, she's acting up, or hey, she's trying to run, or she's trying to signal a truck driver that, you know, that something's wrong, she's not acting right, and something could have happened to Chrissy, you know, or vice versa. From the very, very beginning, they drilled it into my head, they drilled it into her head that, you know, if we try to act up, something really bad was going to happen. I mean, you couldn't see it on the outside looking at me, you know, you couldn't see that something was wrong, you know, but deep down in my eyes, you know, there's something wrong. You know, I was crying out for help, but I couldn't do it because, you know, I didn't want to end up dead. I didn't want her dead and it be my fault. You know, I mean, it's like they had us completely wrapped, completely controlled, you know, to where we were brainwashed, to where we were like, okay, we have to do this or else, you know, something bad could happen. I mean, who knows if they knew us well enough, they could have known where my family lived, you know, and killed them, you know, anything. Anything was going through my mind that, you know what, I have to do this or else something bad's going to happen to me, to my family, to my friends, anything, you know, and it's not something that you really see out on the surface, but it's happening, you know, inside my mind it was happening, you know, I was scared, unbelievably scared.
Threatening one's family, a lot of times what they'll do is use that to threaten against the girls that, you know, I'll kill your family if you don't do this, I'll kill your mom, I'll kill your little brother, I'll kill your kid. Sounds unrealistic, sounds crazy, like something from a plot for a movie, but it is happening. I've seen it happen in more than one of my cases, and we get reporting back from the field that happens. It's a common occurrence that will happen, threatening other families. To this date, we've probably rescued over 1,500 kids. The important number is really how many kids you've recovered. I mean, that's our first priority when it comes to these cases. Yes, we want to arrest the bad guys. Yes, we want to put pimps away so we can stop them, and that's what you truly understand. But on the same note, if you know you have a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old who's in danger of being recruited and picked up by a pimp, we're going to rescue her first. That's where our priority is. It's getting the kids off of the street. And we'll get him another way. We'll get him another day. Pimps are very transient. They move around a lot. So do your girls. Your victims are being moved constantly, whether it's through planes or cars that they'll just drive, or bus tickets, or through trucks. There's any way that they can get to their money, that's how they're going to get there.
I think a lot of times people think about traffickers as one bad person who grabs a kid and somehow sells them on the street. But what we found in law enforcement is trafficking is often a team effort. It's the person transporting the child from place to place so that they can never be in a place long enough to get help. It is the person who actually lures the child in. It's the enforcer, the person who is beating the child. Could those all be the same person? Absolutely. But more often than not, it is a loose coalition of people who are working to keep that child enslaved. So that trucker who's asked to transport that kid from one place to another, that guy's part of the team. That guy's part of the criminal enterprise involved in human trafficking and child rape. That person's part of the slavery. You are no different than the captain and crew of the slave ships that brought the slaves from Africa to the plantations to live their lives in chains.
The trucking industry is in a unique position because they actually will be in locations that pimps will bring in their victims to be prostituted out. Those being truck rest stops and service stations and things of that nature.
What we have primarily done is created thousands and thousands of wallet cards with the national hotline number on them, and they also include, these wallet cards includes indicators to look for that you might be interacting with a potential trafficking victim. And so what we're asking the trucking industry to do is become aware of this issue and then take action on it. And primarily we want truck drivers to become aware of this, because truck drivers are the eyes and the ears of the nation's highway. And so if these folks can see what's going on at the truck stops and at the rest areas and make those phone calls and give specific details when they call, we really feel they will put a dent in our country's sex trafficking issue.
So where your truckers can help out at their rest stops, you know, they know who's coming in. You see a car pull in or a navigator pulling in. Why is a navigator pulling in with 10 girls in it and one guy behind the wheel? And all of a sudden you've got a bunch of young girls walking out in revealing or lingerie clothing and knocking on cabs or talking over CBs saying, hey, you know, is anybody looking for a date?
We want truckers, when they call the national hotline, 1-888-3737-888, to be as specific as possible and give actionable information. And what we mean by that is that when they call in with those tips, tell us more details about what was suspicious, so that when we turn over these tips to law enforcement, they're able to open an investigation regarding them.
As an investigator, it's always details, details, details is what helps us. If you can, simple things that you can note: what's the vehicle, the color of the vehicle, the make of the vehicle, description of any occupants, the girls, how many, race, possible age that you think it may not be. If you can get a license plate, what state, what the plate is, that's fantastic. If you can get a description of who's driving it, who's in control of it. If you can take pictures say 1,000 words. And if you have a camera or an iPhone, whatever it might be, that's a fantastic piece of evidence and piece of information that we can use. You know, it's getting involved that much. We're not saying go out there and grab the girls and try and drive away with them. No, don't try and rescue them on your own, but even the smallest little details that you guys have that can provide us with good help and have helped to recover girls and save kids. And that's really what it's about. And every one of these kids that are recovered and saved, what you have to remember is you're preventing hundreds of rapes going on. Every one of these guys that we arrest, that's preventing hundreds, if not thousands, of kids of being raped and abducted.
The average age for a young girl to enter the sex for sale industry in the United States is 12 years old. And these girls need help. And sometimes even it's our young boys. These are America's children. And so what we are asking the trucking industry, the people who can help and make a difference, because they're out there. Pimps have identified truck stops as a great place to sell these girls. Truckers come and go. It is so easy for them not to think about it or worry about it. But what we are asking truckers to do instead is take a look at these young girls. Try and enter in, recognize that this is somebody's daughter, this is somebody's family member, and that you can make a difference here if you pick up that phone and call the national hotline. And so many people turn a blind eye to these girls. In fact, 1/3 of them are usually runaways. They're coming from abused homes. These girls' lives from start to finish have been horrific. And so they need an everyday hero. They need someone to pick up that phone and make the call on their behalf, and hopefully it leads to their rescue.
There's 2.4 million CDL drivers in the United States. We need to educate them about what we're talking about right here, human trafficking. We can make an impact. We can change everything that goes on out there by getting involved.
Thank God what saved me was that truck driver that called in and said, hey, you know, this is whoever at the TA's truck stop, you know, and we have some girls out here that look pretty young.
911. A couple of girls at the TA at 167 trying to do business out here.
Because this trucker made the call, I have an opportunity to actually have life. You know, I have this baby, this is the second one now, second one on the way. I have a little girl, this is a little boy. I'm married, you know, to a wonderful guy, and I actually have life. I actually can come back from this. You know, I have a chance to have a chance to live, you know, to experience things that without what he did for me, you know, a simple phone call, without that, you know, it would have been total opposite. But here I am, I'm sitting here with my mom, you know, I mean, and that all could have been taken away, but because of, you know, that trucker, I have, you know, a future.
Oh, that trucker. The one that made that phone call. I think about him all the time. I have never met him. I don't know who he is, but boy, I owe him a lot. If it wasn't for him calling the police and saying that she just doesn't look right there, I have no idea what would have happened. Boy, am I thankful to him, to that truck driver. God, am I thankful to him. And if he ever sees this, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Here's what we need you to do. Get your hands on a wallet card, carry it everywhere, and when you suspect human trafficking is taking place, call the national hotline number at 1-888-373-7888 and tell them what you see. They need truckers anywhere and everywhere to flood them with calls and tips about what is going on out there. Truckers are the eyes and the ears of our nation's highway, and you all see what most cannot or do not. So make the call and save lives. Raise awareness about domestic sex trafficking with everyone you know. Talk about what you've just seen on this video. Tell the stories of these young girls and help educate other members of the trucking industry so they can become Truckers Against Trafficking. Ask your safety director to show this DVD to your entire company. Make human trafficking a regular part of safety training. Hang up TAT posters in your break rooms. Tell all Travel Plaza Center's employees about human trafficking and signs that they can be looking for. Get extra wallet cards or copies of this DVD. Pass them out to other members of the trucking industry. Tell others our website, truckersagainsttrafficking.com. And if you have a website yourself, link TAT to it. When you get the knock at the door, you have three choices. Choice one is to totally ignore them. Choice two is to invite them in. Third choice is think and make a call. Make a call because you could be saving a life.